Ashley joined my program in the month of December just before the Christmas. She said, I will do it after the Christmas. And I said to her this thing, one is greater than zero. If you can give 20 minutes, we can build the momentum. She said, okay, let's try. And I want to share it. First day she did 20, second day 20, and then she leveled up and she cleared PMP with all above target. Ashley, I'm really proud of you for doing that. This is your journey. Why don't you share with us?
Thank you, Amir. I cannot rave about how amazing this has been. It's been a struggle, don't get me wrong, but you've pushed me, you've mentored me, you've helped me bridge gaps that I didn't know were there, and it's just been great. It was really hard. I hit a lull, I think, the end of January, beginning of February, and I was just it was a lot. But after I got over that hump and I seen and started to make the connections, my brain started to think with that mindset that you need. Um, the questions got a little easier and they made a little more sense. And the more that I worked at them and I did the RCAs, as much as I strongly dislike them, I love them and am forever grateful for them. They were very time consuming and tedious, but you know what? In the end, obviously it worked. Um, so I can't rave about how amazing it's been now that it's over.
Yeah, yeah. I'm also very happy, and I want to put it here. There are very few people who are as consistent as you are. So Ashley had a plan. I'm gonna do this thing, and she followed it. Like as a mom, on weekends mostly she's busy, but on weekdays she has a plan. Okay, I can do this thing this way, this thing this way, and we can manage the plan, starting from the task to the exam itself, even. Right?
Mhm.
So so I'm really proud to work with you. Actually, let's go and talk about the exam, how the exam was, how did we manage time, and which topics were most highlighted into it.
So I watched the 20-minute video before the day of exam that you kind of talked about the breakdown and time management, what happens if you run out of time or you're getting close to running out of time. And so I made myself a little cheat sheet that I basically kept by my out just outside my office, and at each break I kind of reviewed that, where I should be. I looked at the clock when I went in my break, wrote that time down, reconfigured, the 75 minutes for the second piece and the third piece, just so I could kind of gauge mindfully where I'm at. I learned that very early on, time management, once it clicked to me as to what the process was, reading the question first and then reviewing the full question, then all of the answers. As long as I did that in that order, in that process, time really wasn't hard for me to manage after that. It was just making sure that I was following those steps, which was great. I didn't have to, I didn't get to a point where I ever ran out of time, which was nice. As far as remembering what it was like and how I felt, it's all a blur. It was a lot. I used the breathing strategy. That was huge. I did that when before I sat down, before I got up to use my 10-minute break, walked around, did some stretches. So just kind of keeping my mind clear or trying to clear my mind during those 10 minutes, I think was very helpful. It helped kind of boot my okay, we're gonna go at it again for the next 60 questions. Um, so those helped a lot. As far as what was specifically on the test, there really was not any I didn't have to use my calculator at all. There was no calculations to be done there. That was one area that I knew very little about. Like I could have utilized more work in those formulas. I knew some of them, but the bigger ones were were something that I knew I needed to study more. So I was very thankful that there was none of those. But there was a lot of situational questions, which is what we cover on all of our mocks, is more of situational and not as much of vocab words and understanding what this actually means. It's more along the lines of the servant leadership, and that was one thing that kind of stuck with me too. Was if I didn't know the answer, I would be like, what does a servant leader do? And that would be how I would structure my answer or come to the conclusion of my answer.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Okay. So those breaks were useful, and the plan was good to give exam at home. Was it a good plan? Instead of
Yeah.
going in the center, we sit at the home and give the exam in the comfortable. How did you like the plan? The same time when we do the mocks, we should give the exam.
Yes, I thought that was really good. I do think that that is a good trait to kind of gather. I know that my brain's more active in the morning, so I know if I can do stuff in the morning, I'm more productive, and that's just with everyday life. I'm just more productive in the morning than I am in the afternoons and evenings. So I knew if I would have waited until afternoon or later, it I think I would have struggled a little bit more than I did. Um, but yeah, having it at home was nice for the comfortability. I do struggle with not being able, or I did struggle with not being able to read the questions aloud. I personally also like to play with my hair a lot. So that was just one thing that,
Ah,
kind of had to set down here. And that was my calming mechanism. So it couldn't be seen in front of the computer screen, which was nice. I guess it kind of worked out in my favor. But I did worry about that as well. Like, how would I manage that? So I did find my work around there. But other than that, I don't know as if a testing area would have been right for me just because of being around a bunch of other people or in an unusual environment sometimes isn't the most calming.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Like, if your internet is good, like giving the exam at the same location is always best for you, especially in the States and in Canada. You do not have a much internet problem unless there's a storm like I am having. So normally it is good to go and you can easily give the exam, and that's what happened. How many drag and drop question did you have?
Um, I did have a few of those. If I had this, I'd somewhere between 3 and 5.
Three to five drag and drop questions. Okay. And how many formula questions?
One or two that you had to match the words with the meanings. The rest of them were more different types of leadership or different types of communication that you had to match up with that style.
Okay, perfectly fine. So we for last 1 week we were working more on one topic. When I did Monte Carlo analysis for your scores, Agile was out of the way. And we then did some more mocks on Agile, right? So how exam was on Agile? Was the Agile important in the exam or not much?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was pretty prominent. I know that there really wasn't tons of risk questions, which surprised me. There was some, but I would have expected to see more in the long along the lines of risk. Um, Communication was one that there was a lot more of as well than I would originally have thought.
Hmm, okay. Okay. What would be your advice to other working moms, how they should prepare, how much time they should dedicate so that they can become certified PMP?
I would easily say up to 2 hours a day. And I know it's hard sometimes. I know it's very hard sometimes. For me personally, my schedule allowed me to, I would get up earlier. So I'd be up sometimes at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning just to get that out of the way before my kids got up and we got going. And I had to focus on getting them ready and getting them where they needed to be before I actually went to work. So um, that's the time that worked best for me. And obviously, with knowing that, but that's the best time just to catch me being more productive. I think it just kind of worked out and aligned. If I would have had to do it in the evening, it would have been a lot harder just because everybody's getting out of work and school, and then you have dinner, and then you got to get everybody ready for bed and ready for the next day. So, um, the evenings that I did work in the afternoon, I don't think I grasped as much. So definitely time management and finding every possible little minute. Even as I was sitting in line at pickup waiting for them, I had 45 minutes. So I would jump on and I would walk through and do, a mock 60 or like a 10 question random questions,
Then what?
just, yeah, just something that I could do to kind of not waste time and utilize every minute.
Utilize our, and this is exactly what we did. Like, especially in the particularly, I guess Christmas was the only day I did not disturb you. On 25th of December was the only day in last 1.5 month when I did not do it. And I'm really happy. You asked me in the month of December, do you think we can clear it in the month of February? So did you have any deadline in the mind when we started because you wanted to do it?
Yeah, so when you first contacted me and we said possibly February,
Mm-hmm.
like would be what you feel that you could do without, us really diving in and doing anything. That was my goal then. Like, okay, if you're telling me that it's the end of December and we could do it, and I'm gonna even say mid-February, that's gonna be what I'm gonna dedicate the next 2 months to doing whatever I can to make that work because it's only 2 months.
Yeah, yeah. 2 months of working according to your schedule, and it has been a good thing. From all the mocks that you did a bunch of mocks. And because I was, unless I am getting that score, and that's why when you went to the exam and you messaged me, I was in a class at that time. When you sent me that message, does that mean pass? I said, I am confident. And you got the all above targets. Yeah. So that has to be, because passing in the exam is one thing, but getting all above target is something like I always love. And seeing the result made my day. So what were you feeling a day before the exam or exam day? What do you think you were thinking you could score that good?
No, no, not even. I thought for sure I would at least get at target, but never did I ever think, especially in agile, knowing that I struggled there, that was my weakest area going in. I never thought that I would ever get above target on all three.
Mm. And that is something amazing and that happened. From all the mocks that you did, which mock was most important for exam? One, which mocks you felt were the hardest when you were studying?
Well, definitely my people 5 one was the hardest, but again, I think it had a lot to do. It was less situational questions and more of like, what does this mean, or what is this in line with? So that had more of like the less of situational questions, I guess. Not what would you do in this situation, but what does this mean type deal. So I struggled with that because they were just words or things that we maybe didn't cover in the um, the YouTube videos. So I had to go back and look them up myself and, walk through the exam and actually learn what they meant. So that helped a lot. But I wouldn't say any of them were easy, Amir. I wouldn't.
That's a good one. That's a good answer. I like your answer. That's a good answer that none of them are easy. They were brain fire. But do you know, I ask, apart from people mock, there's another mock you did 2 times. Actually, 2 mocks you did 2 times. Elite 181, Agile 180 that you did 2 times. And because when I was getting Agile, I was not, I said, what is happening here? Her predictive is so good, right? She's scoring it above 85. But whenever the question come from Agile, the score just goes down, right? But I'm happy the way it ended. Thank you very much, Ashley. It has been a beautiful journey, and I'm proud that it ended in a positive way. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it so much. And like I said, I am so thankful for you. So thank you for everything that you've taught me. And I actually have a few coworkers that are thinking about doing this, and I have done nothing but rave about you. So I
Thank you.
hope that they are serious about it and they want to ensure that they're going to pass, that they do reach out to you. So
Thank you.